Now our tyrant Nashville mayor is threatening to cut police department and first responder positions if voters recall his BS property tax hike. Does that sound like leadership? Hell no, it sounds like tyranny because that is precisely what it is. And you know, I've got some final thoughts. Democrats, no matter what city, what state, or what level of government, have never met a tax they didn't like, which brings me to our little tyrant mayor of Nashville, John Chicken Cooper. Now, if you're a fan of Final Thoughts, you know that I left Los Angeles to escape crippling taxes, regulations, and corrupt Democratic politicians who have no concept of civil service beyond serving themselves. Well, it turns out that description rings true right here in the red state of Tennessee because my fellow Nashvillians have allowed this city and county to vote blue. And what do you get when you allow a city within a red state to go blue? You get crushing taxes, tyrannical infringements, and so-called leaders who are all too happy to pass the buck on to you, the hardworking taxpayer. That's the nightmare Nashville is currently facing under Mayor John Cooper. Under his reign of terror, we've not only dealt with a crushing economic stranglehold and drawn-out modified Phase 2 for over 2 months now, we've also had a 34% property tax hike heaped on top of that. Oh, and that's not all. We have a mask mandate, and bars and restaurants not only have to grapple with business-crushing capacity limits, but also a 10:30 p.m. curfew because, in Mayor Cooper's world, coronavirus is more deadly after 10:30 p.m. Yeah, right. Or he has a not-so-secret vendetta against Nashville's top bar and business owners who also happen to be his vocal critics. Public health and safety, my ass. Our cases have been on the decline for weeks. This mayor is also making arbitrary little loopholes for things like Titans games, wherein he is allowing bars to be open an extra half hour. Just goes to show none of this is about coronavirus and all about control, power, and self-indulgence. This mayor not only kept us on COVID lockdown far longer than surrounding counties, including Williamson County right down the road, which has ended its mask mandate and allowed its businesses to reopen and thrive, he's toyed with reopening in such a way he always seems to benefit. For example, back in June, Mayor Cooper moved us into Phase 3, but just for 10 days. But conveniently, in those 10 days, his son was able to participate in his in-person commencement ceremony at his fancy little private school. Funny how that worked out, huh? Oh, and while his other sons have the luxury of in-person learning at their fancy private school, Metro public school students and parents are forced to deal with the burden of virtual learning. Oh, and Metro public school athletes have still not been able to participate in sports such as football, though that fancy private school Cooper's kids attend, they've been playing football for weeks. But if all that wasn't enough, now he's threatening to come after first responders if an amendment is passed to repeal his property tax hike and cap it at 2%, saying, quote, "This would cripple our city and gut essential city services. After 2 natural disasters this year, we don't need a self-inflicted one. This would severely weaken Nashville at a time when we need to build Nashville stronger." Wait a damn minute, Chicken Cooper. This would cripple our city? This? The one thing crippling our city is you, and the self-inflicted wound was the voters who elected your sorry ass into office in the first place. If we want to build Nashville stronger, what we ought to do is get rid of you and elect someone who feels the pain of Nashville. Not someone who not only keeps taking a full paycheck, but also gave himself a raise at the same time he upped our property taxes. I know not all of you live in Nashville or care about it for that matter, but chances are if you have a Democrat at the helm of your city or state, you're dealing with the same crap. And they keep getting away with this crap because we the people have allowed them to. We've allowed them to perch themselves in ivory towers and make dictates and demands that crush our cities and states, all while we keep our mouths shut and accept it as for the greater good. It's not. We have elections coming up in less than 2 months. Show your state, local, and federal tyrants who the bosses really are. Those are my final thoughts from Nashville. God bless and take care.